Welcome to Hearties, where we are celebrating the birth of baby girl to the Coulter family. Yay! I'm Lori Pearson from Mobile, Alabama, and I'm joined today by my friends.
I'm Amy from Lancaster, Massachusetts.
And I'm Marg from San Diego, California.
We are thrilled today to chat with the woman who wrote episode 4, Great Expectations. Longtime When Calls the Heart writer, Elizabeth Stewart. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. So lovely to be here.
So glad to have you back on Heart to Hearties.
Oh, it's great. It's great to be here. And one of my favorite episodes all time. So yeah.
Well, you are not alone. This episode is probably going to go down as one of the Hearties' all-time favorites.
Oh, I'm so glad. But it was hard to miss, with the decision was made early on to, thinking back to when little Jack was born. We didn't really focus too much on the birth experience, but we felt, let's do it. Let's experience it along the way we do as women, right? And fathers too. So we decided to do a full meal deal with it, and I'm really glad we did it. And I hope the fans are too.
They are very happy. Here's just one sample. Hardy Brian Shively of Columbia, Missouri, said on Twitter last night, "I was expecting an emotional story tonight filled with echoes from the past and joyous new beginnings, but this episode far exceeded my expectations. Best episode in many seasons, in my opinion. Kudos to writer Elizabeth Stewart."
Thank you.
And I can tell you this, I've got an empty Kleenex box today. I'm going to go shopping.
Well, I have to quickly say, though, that, of course, we write as a group. Everybody writes. So, it was truly a group effort. And we're glad that it's paid off for the fans. Yeah. Great.
So, well, we know that you get to see the dailies. But what was it like to see this amazing episode delivered on screen?
It kind of exceeded my expectations. You're right. I had
seen.
Well, when you see it with the music and it just mixed, and it was so beautiful, and I felt the episode flowed very well. I was very pleased to see that the stories interwove very well. I thought, and sort of supported each other. You're right. We do see the dailies, but we're seeing scenes are shot, of course, all out of sequence, and you're seeing different things shot on different days, and you don't get the full picture until it's broadcast. And it's different even watching it on television than watching it on your computer. We do get the cuts as well, but it's a different experience again. So I was very pleased too. So
we definitely loved it. So the news is out. It's a girl, and I think that was a popular guess from a lot of Hearties. So they were really, really happy when it was confirmed and it was official. Linda Scott of Pittsburgh says she was certain it would be a girl. Let the pampering of the princess begin. So could you walk us through a little bit how the decision was made that baby Coulter would be a girl versus a boy, or versus twins, which was another popular guess?
Well, honestly, I don't remember there being a lot of discussion about it. I think we agreed it was going to be a girl. Like Rosemary needs a girl, right? And Elizabeth next door has little Jack. So it just seemed to be a lovely balance. And, also Lee, we could see as just being such a doting dad to a girl, right? So
yes, totally.
Yeah. We did very briefly consider twins, but just from a production practical standpoint, that's very, very tough to do.
And I'm a mom of twins, so I can only imagine what it would have been like having twins on set.
I'm a twin, actually.
Oh, really?
I just keep finding twins everywhere now. So the birth scene, and it started with Rosemary going into labor, and I think a lot of Hearties really got a kick out of that. It was absolutely hysterical seeing Flo and Molly running back and forth and trying to figure out who they needed to get and where they were and how they were going to do all these things. And it just felt like the whole entire town was coming together to support Lee and Rosemary. We saw, Bill Avery and Nathan show up in the middle of the night because they couldn't sleep. Can you talk to us about writing some of these bigger group scenes how do you decide what characters to spotlight and which reactions of theirs you're going to intermingle or focus on?
Right. Well, it was kind of a given in this situation who we were going to focus on, Rosemary and Leah. And Faith had to get in there, and Elizabeth had to get in there. So the whole gang. I should say that our showrunner, Lindsay Sturman, had a very clear vision of that very fun scene. And there's a lot of choreography that goes on in your head, first of all, and then getting it on the page. So you want to give everyone who's in that scene some purpose for being there, which I thought was brilliant with Florence and Molly going in their different directions. And Faith, where's Faith? Get Faith, all of that. So that really was a group effort, that scene. I wrote one first version of it, and then we all kind of pitched in, honing it, sharing our ideas, just making it better, and just working on the comedy of it, which is its own skill, right? And the timing of it.
I think they heard Rosemary and Hamilton yelling, "Get Faith!"
Yes.
I loved her growl. We didn't really write that growl in. That was Pascal.
Yeah, we interviewed Pascal, and she talked about a moment between Cavan and herself where she said Cavan looked at her like, "Oh, you're going to take it there," like with the scene partner. So I have to imagine that was it. Like, that was a different decibel that she reached. Wow.
Absolutely. And they are so brilliant together after all these seasons. They just know each other so well. And so, I mean, the comedy in that scene, first and foremost, goes to them, right? It's, yeah.
Yes, they certainly set the tone, but then I don't know, something about the way Flo and Molly were running was just, and then of course, then you have Andrea Brooks running with her doctor bag in front of her baby bump. And it just was, there was a lot of running. There was a lot of running. It was very comic. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. That's wonderful.
Yeah. There's something about these joyous occasions and particularly pregnancy, since we're sharing twins and everything else. I was adopted, and when I was pregnant, it brought up all of these kinds of feelings that you thought you had kind of settled and put to rest. And it kind of felt like you dealt with that in this episode, that this, whether it's wedding planning or the pregnancy, the grief and loss has a way of sort of popping up when you don't necessarily expect it. And it was interesting that you decided to interweave these kind of beautiful, happy occasion with remembering the loss of Elizabeth's husband and little Jack's father. So tell us why that was important to the writer's room.
Well, first of all, I hope that was more poignant than sad. And I think Elizabeth is in that place now, right, where she can remember Jack and just feel the joy of what they had together and see him in this beautiful little boy. But I have to say, really is looking a great deal like Jack.
Wow.
As he gets older, isn't he? So it was a very natural outpouring, and I think you're absolutely right. This momentous happening going on, it just brought it all up. And I think for little Jack, I mean, he's growing up now, and we can. It's fun now. We can play with him as more of a character, be inside his head. How is he seeing things? And it just naturally occurred to us that, oh, Rosemary and Lee are going to be mommy and daddy, and just that little, oh, well, where's my daddy? So it evolved very naturally from the situation, and from little Jack now being of an age where he can ask these questions and he's having these thoughts. And we had this lovely, gifted little actor who can
seriously. It really was an amazing Highland night. We got to see so much, and it was very, very dear. No, I think it was very poignant and beautiful. But that moment when Elizabeth comes out, of course, if it's an 11-hour, cheerleading session where you're watching your best friend, in pain and etc. Can't imagine that the drugs they had available were particularly helpful, or maybe they didn't give women drugs during birth. I don't know. But when she comes out onto the steps and she looks a little flustered, she definitely, and we're not really accustomed to seeing Elizabeth look flustered. So it was neat then that became a conversation where she could call upon another single parent to say, and she's the expert on kids usually, but when it's your own.
Well, that's right. It is different when it's your own. And it was lovely to have that opportunity for her and Nathan to cross paths and share that about their lives. So, yeah.
So, what an incredible performance. There were so many great performances last night, but Pascal just kind of played on every single one of our emotions. She's utterly exhausted. She just feels like she can't go on. The look on her face, as they're telling her about her contractions. I mean, it's just so, they reach the conclusion that they can't calm her down. How did you guys decide, which I think Hearties are in full agreement with, that we needed to break with tradition and that Lee needed to be there in that moment?
Well, again, there wasn't a lot of discussion about that. It just seemed necessary. And it was, we don't often actually, we try to stay true to the time period, but sometimes situations just beg for bringing modernism into the scene as well, and to pioneer, give a sense that we're pioneering something in that time. So it was pretty much a given that Lee was going to be there at the end. And Elizabeth is so strong through all of it and so supportive, but she knows, and Faith knows too, okay, this is it. She needs Lee. And I think it was a given for us because of the strength of that marriage and the relationship between Rosemary and Lee. You just know he's got to be there.
And is there a little bit, I know you guys are setting the scene for Rosemary to have these emotions about the fact that her mother left their family at a young age. So, in psychobabble terms, she would have kind of abandonment issues. And in the midst of something so primal, that might very much come to the surface.
Absolutely. And I think in that moment, Elizabeth is her mother figure. Right. And they do that for each other.
Now you're really going to make me cry. That's really that's beautiful.
What I thought was interesting was, but it was like both she and Lee came to the end of their rope. He was done with waiting and she was done with this at the same moment. They're so in tune. It was just so cool.
Like they're calling out to each other. Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. That's lovely that you picked that up. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Where's the Kleenex? You said that empty Kleenex box.
Lori's are gone. She doesn't have any more.
You're quite right, Mark, that Rosemary's journey is not over in this respect. The next couple of episodes are going to be really compelling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of hormones going on.
Yeah. And kudos to Pascal, whose range is so amazing. She can play high comedy, and then in those more serious moments, you're with her. It's
well, you gave her a lot to chomp into this season, and that's must be really fun for an actress. So that's very satisfying, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's turn off the tears and kind of switch gears now. We're going to look at another storyline. Jennifer Poole of Republic, Missouri, thinks that there might be some connection between the Bandit and the St. John's. Is that possible?
I mean, how much can I give away here? Let me say
We're digging.
Let me say this. One of the things I love about season 10 is that everything winds up being connected. Like everything. So from the very first episode. So I think that is a very interesting instinct and takeaway from, they are connected, not directly, but we will discover there is a connection.
Jennifer's a smarty, so that's interesting. Okay.
I guess we need to get our Hearties, like those mystery boards they had on the Hallmark Mysteries, and start connecting everything.
Good idea.
Might be worth it. Might be worth starting now, because it's only going to build.
Oh,
Just
Keep
okay.
everything
Get
straight.
out those boards, get out your string and your
That's it.
tack,
Yes.
thumbtacks
Yeah.
and everything, Hearties. All right, and still on the Bandit. He mentioned that there was a drought over in Eagle Valley, which we haven't heard of that town before.
No,
Is
we
there-
haven't mentioned it before.
Is there a possibility that the new hot springs in Hope Valley are connected to that drought?
As I say, everything is connected this season. Maybe not in a way you expect, but
Start connecting the dots.
yeah.
I
yeah.
love the science. I love that the explosion caused the hot springs, and now there's some connection. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We're getting
Interesting.
lessons.
I don't want to give away too
So-
much, but
Now, we have to dig and you don't have to give away.
Right, Beth. Circle back, ladies. Circle back.
We'll eventually get there. Okay, so we have Chris Taylor from West Virginia who says she knows that Madeleine St. John is maybe up to no good. There might be some shenanigans going on there, but she's hoping for a redemption story because she likes what she's seeing between her and Bill. But then we have other Hearties who are really attached to the idea of Molly and Bill. So I'm curious if there might be some romance in Bill's future this season.
Again, I think we won't be disappointed on the redemption front, but also on the shenanigans front. There's a journey to be had here, and Bill will be swept away, unusually so. I mean, we really haven't seen that in a long time with Bill.
Ooh,
Right?
interesting.
So,
Wow.
yes, yeah.
Hmm.
Again, it all connects.
What does that mean about Molly?
Well, I think we left off with Bill and Molly in season 9 as friends. I think they sort of had come to a place where they realized they were good buddies, but maybe not more than that.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So another theme that we kind of saw running through the episode was that theme of second chances and the idea that putting right what you've done wrong. We saw Nathan catch the bandit, and I think as a Mountie, he's probably had lots of experience with thieves and realizing that they're not pillars of honesty. But then we saw him soften a little bit and maybe start to reconsider when he saw Faith's empathy towards this young man. So is that what we're supposed to see? Were we reading that right?
You read it exactly right. Yes. That is what it was our intention with the story, that Faith is helping Nathan soften a little bit. And as he can be a bit by the book sometimes, Nathan, right? So Faith is having that positive influence on him, and also the town is having that influence on him. That's the essence of Hope Valley, right? Everybody deserves a second chance and to flourish and that through that second chance. And yeah, Harry's not going to be a big character, but we will see him flourish because of that. So
Harry is the bandit. Somebody pointed that out this morning. I hadn't realized he had a
That's
name.
his name.
Harry.
I didn't realize he had a name.
Yes.
A mini redemption story there.
it's a lot of redemption going on in this season.
Ooh, we love that.
And I hope I don't screw up the name, but there was a Heartie this morning. I think it was Linda Savage Joy who said that there was a coziness between the dog and Harry. So maybe in addition to Faith's influence, the Mountie looks in and sees this dog like snuggling, this dog has attached to Harry. So
that maybe is another indication that Harry is not a villainous person.
Right. Maybe Scout is seeing something possible there.
That's right. Or maybe Scout is just being incorrigible too.
Maybe Scout is a really bad judge of character. I don't know.
He has his own mind, our Scout.
Yes.
He does.
Yes.
For sure. Yes. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Diane Ellis, a Heartie from Lindenhurst, New York, wonders how it is that you guys decide what writers write what, so are there particular characters that you guys prefer to write for, or particularly skilled at writing for, or how does it get decided who's going to write what?
Well, when you're writing your own episode, the episode that, in the beginning has your name on it. When you start, you're writing the first and second drafts of that episode. So you're writing everybody. So, I mean, I like everybody, and it's fun to change voices. That's part of the skill set and enjoyment of being a writer. Just you're acting all of the parts, right? So not just one character. And you need to, if you're in a scene with two people who are, let's say, having an argument, you have to be able to occupy each of their heads, right? To see their point of view. So from that point, once the writer has delivered a couple of drafts, then the room takes over and we will divvy up, and somebody will polish this part, somebody else will polish that part. I know Lindsay loves Rosemary, and I think identifies very strongly with Rosemary. And many, many people do. She's a wonderful character. So I think Lindsay's had a particular knack with Rosemary.
That's really fun. Just to follow up, because I remember Nikki Pavic. I don't know where Nikki is from in Canada. What province? Do you guys know?
I think Ontario.
Ontario. She was asking if there, I don't think I include this. Is there a character that has required you to step out of your creative process?
Well, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Maybe Henry Gowan a little bit, because he's such a cipher.
Because he's such a what?
A cipher. He's a little unknowable, what's going on in his head. So he's challenging.
I don't know that word. That's interesting. Cipher.
I think I'm using it correctly.
I'm sure you are.
Mystery.
Puzzling.
Puzzling. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I also love writing for Henry, because of that curmudgeonliness and also just that turmoil in him that never seems to go away.
Nice.
Yeah.
Aside from Pascal, whose performance were you either really touched or delighted by in last night's episode?
Oh, gee. I mean, how to choose? I agree. Everybody was just playing their A game in last night's episode. Highland, I thought, was amazing.
It was.
He really was.
Sounds
Aaron.
like a plan.
Sorry?
Sounds
But
like
he
a
said,
plan.
sounds like a plan. The ice cream. That was so
Exactly.
cute.
Exactly. Always Aaron Krakow is just amazing to me. Again, her range, or just her emotiveness, and the way she occupies that character. And she is our window, really, into the show. So
Yeah, I loved her last week, the comedy she brought to the whole baby shower, scenario, clandestine baby shower. And then this week it was a totally different feeling. So her
Cavan, I think, too, stretched in a way we don't often get to see, and he totally delivered. It was amazing. Nathan and Lucas as well. They all had their challenges in the episode, didn't they? But
they did.
And they navigated them, and we could see, I think, the wheels turning for everybody.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, that last scene with Elizabeth and Lucas on the swing, sitting there, it was beautifully shot. The cinematography was just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And then the added layer was, it was such an important conversation between the two of them, acknowledging the great love that she had for Jack and the ability for the heart to expand and love again. Talk to us about why they needed to have this talk and why this was the right time for that talk.
Well, I think for all the reasons we've talked about, there's so much emotion flying around, and birth. It must be bringing up thoughts of their own children they may one day have, right? So it's stirring all sorts of deep emotions. And, this is starting to get real for them. Their wedding is coming up. There are things that they haven't dealt with that they need to deal with if they're going to succeed as a married couple, right? So, and this is a big one, and kind of a taboo one in a way, right? That how do you talk about this? Lucas knows there was this
It's the elephant in the
huge
room.
love. It's the elephant in the room. And he knows there was this huge love between Elizabeth and Jack. And part of him wonders, how do I compete with that? And she was helping him see he doesn't have to compete. I think that's what she was trying to say to him. It's not a competition. There's no limit to my love and the number of people I can love. And once you love, you always love. So yes. I think that's why it was so important too. It definitely has been the elephant in the room. And I think they've been so blissful, and he's so charming, and he sweeps her off her feet all the time. It's easy not to address the serious issues that they need to confront as they move towards marriage.
So
is there some reason? Go ahead, Lori.
I was just gonna say that, was there a reason why when he said, "That's how I love you," she didn't respond in kind? Had she already done that in a way, or?
I think so. I think she had already said to him, I love you. Yes, I love Jack, and he's still part of my life, but I love you too. I have room in my heart for both of you. So I think she had said it already.
Yeah, she had. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just want to make sure I was thinking on the right level with y'all.
We're on the same page.
Yes, on the same page. And I'm on the same page with the Win Calls Art writers. Yay.
Blue ribbon.
Well, Hearties love real estate, and they are still obsessed with Jack's land, with what happened to it. Where did it go? Where's Jack's land? And the previews for next week, it kind of leads us to believe that Lucas may be planning to build a house. What can you tell us about that?
It's not connected to Jack's land, I can tell you that. Okay. But it is connected to who Lucas is and his dreamer mentality and his vision, which again is going to take an interesting turn later in the season. He thinks in grand terms, and again, everything's connected. Later in the season, that's going to play huge in his relationship with Elizabeth and the town and the territory. Anyway, I shouldn't say more than that, but
got some little tidbits, y'all.
Yeah, it's about him being a dreamer and a visionary. That house, right?
Interesting. Well, Wanda Marie Rogers from Battle Creek, Michigan wrote last night, "I found myself very emotional and I shed some tears of joy for Rosemary. Every time I watch this show, it is so alive to me. I feel like I'm a neighbor of theirs who cares deeply about each one of these characters. This show is such a blessing to all of us who play a part in it, be it the characters in the story or the viewers." I just thought that was so gorgeous, and I wanted to share it with you, Beth, because
that's so kind.
So grateful, particularly for this long-awaited bundle of joy, and I'm so happy you got to bring it to us.
Oh, it was just such a gift to be able to do it, and this is a feedback loop. The writers, the show, and the Hearties, and we feed off of you just as much. So it was a pleasure knowing how the Hearties were waiting for this moment to imagine how would they want to see it and to try to deliver it in that way. Oh.
Well, I don't think there's any greater compliment than that you've brought it alive for them, that they feel like they're that close to it. So job well done. And where it just was really cool to see all of the Hearties lighting their candles last night. I don't know if you got to see any of that.
Did you see the candles?
I did. Yeah. Yes, I saw a screenshot of somebody's candles. If I could just tell you a little story about that.
Yes, please.
Lindsay Sturman's brother and sister-in-law were expecting their baby just at the beginning as we were writing these episodes. And Lindsay had been to a party for her sister-in-law where they did exactly that. They distributed the candles, and that's where that came from. So
cool.
Yeah,
Allie had shared that it had come from Lindsay, but we didn't know those exact details, and that it inspired us, and I think it gave us something to join in on last night, and Hearties had thought it was really beautiful. So we're looking forward to you Hearties joining us again this Sunday night, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central on the Hallmark Channel. Don't forget when you're tweeting to use the hashtag Hearties. And we'll be right back here, Heart to Hearties, every week doing a recap. And we're so glad that you've joined us. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chat that we offer. And thank you so much. This has been Heart to Hearties.